Thank you for joining me, friends. In today's video, I'm going to talk about what it is that we're not seeing. As we're slowly moving out of 2024 to enter 2025, what is it that we're not seeing? If we don't have the result that we want, there's a missing, there's something we're not seeing. And once we identify that, then we could shoot for the stars, shoot for the things that we're after. And none other than Frederick Douglass. And a lot of you knows the story of Frederick Douglass. He's a great author. And the thing about Frederick Douglass, he was born in 1818 into slavery. And when you're born into slavery, that's it, Your master owns you. They tell you what to do, what you need to do on a daily basis. You have no real mindset to take any action. The actions that you're taking is the actions that you're told you could take, and that's it. And we are so very fortunate. That's not the world that we're in right now, but that's the world that he was born in. And what amazes me about Frederick is the actions that he took. It's the actions that he took. His master's wife took a liking to him, as a little kid, and really started teaching him the alphabets. She was teaching him, the ABCs, the alphabets and stuff. And long and behold, one day her husband showed up and find her teaching this slave boy the alphabet. This kid was learning, little words there, and he's like, "What are you doing, woman? What are you doing? Hello, what are you doing?" He was livid. It's like, what are you doing? You can't do that. You cannot teach a slave boy the alphabet. You can't teach him how to read. What are you doing? You're messing things up. To think about it, reading is so vital. It's so important. Learning. And he was irate about that. And that was the end of that for Frederick. But that didn't stop there, because he saw something. He saw his slave master being so irate about him learning how to read at a very young age. He realized, wait a minute, there's something bigger to this reading. I better stay tuned. I better tap in. I better go full force with it. So what did he do? He was smart enough to keep going. He kept going. He didn't stop him. He didn't let that stop him. It was an opposition. It was a derailment of God's perfect plan for him, but he didn't let that stop him. And that encourages me so much, you guys, because I was like, you know what? What are we letting stop us? What did I let stop me in 2024 going into 2025? And I was like, oh my goodness, look at the slave boy that had really nothing in comparison to what we have in this day and age. He didn't have any of that, but yet he didn't let that stop him. He did not let that stop him. You know what he did? He found little notes from the copied that the guys were writing, and he had those little timber, what was written in the timber. He would pay kids, he would help give them food or whatever that he had received, so they could teach him how to read. He went further. He furthered himself to learn how to read. And at night, there would be a lamp where he would just try to read words and try to make sense of it, try to understand it. And when I think of the amount of courage that took that little kid to learn to do that, to develop himself like that, I'm left with no excuses, I'm like, oh my goodness, there's really nothing stopping, nothing standing in the way. And when I read that story, I was like, oh my gosh, what it took just to learn how to read. Something we take for granted. I know I just, I open a book and I just read it. It's not even a second thought. But for him, that was his lifeline. That was his lifeline. So the story gets better. He kept going. He kept pursuing it. He kept going after it. He kept persevering, and he learned how to read. And he left. He went. He was born, I should say, in Maryland in 1818. He left in 1838 to New York. He became an autobiographer. He had the best. He became. He had the best books that he was putting out there and communicating. In a way, his books are, they're so well written. If you haven't read one of his books, you should, because you'll learn a lot. And one of the quote, and I'm going to read that. It says, one of the quote from his book, it says, "Once you learn to read, you will be forever free." And I thought about that. Once you learn to read, you will be forever free. What book are we not reading? You know, if we're stagnant, stuck in our way, what lesson that we haven't learned so we could be forever free? I'm in the freedom, forever freedom and joy and abundance and blessings. And I know it's written somewhere. It's written in books. It's forcing me to take actions that I wouldn't know to take. To get out of my comfort zone, I got to get in there and do something different that I didn't do in 2024. Need to do more of, take it to the next level. One of the things slave owners were afraid of, they thought, which is true, slave owners were very fearful. Why were they fearful, you might ask? They were fearful because of literacy, because they believe, and they knew that, they believe empowering an enslaved person, empowering them by teaching them to read, they would recognize the dehumanization that existed, that they were experiencing, and they would set themselves free. And that was the goal that this young man had. And I thought about that. I thought, oh my goodness, how powerful is that, you know, to have that example. And I just thought about it. The books that we put off, the books that we don't read, they might be the very book that holds our freedom. The freedom of, you know, the mindset that you have, the freedom of, you know, nothing's going to change, the freedom of this is how it's going to be for me. It doesn't have to be that way. In 2025, if you're with me on this elevation journey that we say we're on, let's really elevate. Let's take it to the next level. Let's pick up things that isn't even comfortable, that it doesn't even seem like we have the bandwidth or the support system, but because there's a sheer determination, there's a desire for more, for better, to grow, to expand. Why not? Why not us? And it amazes me when I think about that. I'm like, if in 1818, born into slavery, a child that his life could go anywhere at any moment, he could be separated from his family, whatever can happen, but still had the audacity, the boldness, the desire to say, no, not me. I am going to change things. His eyes opened a little bit and he kept widening it. Our eyes are open. We can read, but why not widen our eyes? Why not widen our understanding to what's available to us so that we could really be free from the day-to-day mundane and really live the life that God intended for us to live? That's what's in my heart, and that's what I want to share with you because it inspires me, and I pray it inspires you. Keep going. Let's hit 2025 with gusto and a sheer determination to get it done and really be free. Take care. As always, be good to yourself and be good to others. See you next time. Bye-bye.